Natasha stops to listen to all the commotion. "Take her," she orders Grumpy, who grabs the back of Yo-Yo's jacket and walks her into an elevator. Robbie comes hurriedly into the lobby. "What's going on?" he says. "Nothing to worry about. Just a minor setback," she says, caressing his cheek. Quake and Emilie walk in. "You got this?" asks Quake. Emilie nods. She had been waiting to throw punches with Natasha since the night at the club. Quake runs off to search for Mac and Yo-Yo. "I think it's time you knew. He's taken," informs Emilie. "Jealousy isn't a very attractive trait," says Natasha. "Neither is a black eye, but I'm sure you could pull it off," says Emilie. "Does my touch bother you?" asks Natasha as she holds Robbie's face in her hands. "No," he says, mesmerized by the sound of her voice. "Would you do anything for me?" she asks. "Yes," he replies in a hypnotic trance. "Make sure I don't ever see her again," says Natasha just before kissing him. Emilie can feel the blood in her veins boil. Robbie starts walking towards her. He grabs her shirt and flings her back against a wall. She gets up and shakes the drywall off her wings. Emilie and Robbie throw a few punches, and she manages to swipe his legs and knock him down. "This is the second time you've tried to kill me, Robbie," she says. "Maybe I'll have better luck this time," he says, getting up. He throws a punch and misses as Emilie ducks. She charges up her hands with electricity and hits him in the chest. The small static charge staggers his stance. He walks over to a small pile of building materials and grabs a pipe. He swings it twice at Emilie and misses. "I'm done playing games," he says, just before turning into the Ghost Rider. He grabs for Emilie and she blocks his hand. Emilie tries to teleport behind him, but he knew it was coming. He grabs her neck and pushes her into a nearby column, while at the same time shoving the pipe into her chest. Her eyes open wide as she looks at the fiery sockets of the rider. He seems to stare back at her as he slowly nods his head to her. She looks over towards Natasha as her eyes slowly drop to a close and her body dangles against the column. "Nice," she says, congratulating him. "Let's go." Natasha and the rider leave to assess the damage done outside. Grumpy brings Yo-Yo to a small testing room with a big isolation tank in the middle. He opens the door and pushes her inside with Mac. "Mac, are you okay?" she asks. "Yeah, you?" he asks. Yo-Yo nods as she watches Grumpy type into a computer and flip a switch before leaving. The sound of power echoes through the room. "What was that?" asks Mac. "I don't know," says Yo-Yo. Quake comes running in a moment later. She runs over to the console. "What's that noise?" questions Mac. Quake types on the computer for a moment. "They've made the drug airborne." A counter starts as Quake rushes to unlock the doors of the chamber. In the lobby, Emilie grabs a hold of the pipe. She takes small, shallow breaths. Little by little, she inches her way off the pipe and falls to the ground. She gives herself a moment to recover. Slowly, her breathing becomes easier. She stands to her feet, angry and annoyed, as she looks at the small hole as it tries to heal. Natasha tells the Ghost Rider to inform Hyde there are still several SHIELD agents who need to be dealt with in the facility. She takes the elevator up to the 4th floor of the building, which contains some of the chemicals needed to create the Inhuman formula. Just as she exits the elevator, Emilie, who had been hiding in the elevator shaft, teleports in and kicks her from behind. Natasha falls forward to the ground. "I guess I'll take care of you myself," she says, getting up. May and Coulson head down to the lower level of the facility. "These chemicals are being pumped deeper into the building," points out May. "This doesn't look like the same formula we tested," says Coulson, looking at the fluorescent green fluid flowing through the pipes. May walks over to another tank and checks the computer system beside it. "He's atomizing it," says May. "It's a better delivery system," says a deep, raspy voice from behind them. They turn, weapons drawn. Out of the shadows walks a tall, broad, slightly misshapen figure. Quake tries to override the system and an alarm starts to beep. "Daisy, you think you can hurry it up?" says Mac. "I'm trying," she says in a panic. The door unlocks, but before the two of them can get out, a mist is sprayed into the chamber. Yo-Yo falls out of the door onto the floor while Mac catches a face of the mist. He drops down to his knees, wiping at his face. "Mac, are you okay?" asks Yo-Yo, crawling back over to him. "Get back!" he yells as he crawls back against the side of the tank. Yo-Yo gets to her feet and Quake walks over. "Mac," calls Quake. "Just give me a minute," he says, holding up his hand. He stands and takes a deep breath. "I think I'm good. Let's get out of here." He takes 2 big steps towards the door. "Mac," says a worried Yo-Yo. "What?" he says, turning to her. He looks himself over. Everything looks fine. Quake holds up her hand and releases a small sonic pulse. Mac watches as his physical form slightly disintegrates and reforms. "What the?" He looks on in confusion. He looks at Yo-Yo and Emilie. "We have to go. The sooner we can get Hyde, the sooner Fitzsimmons can reverse whatever is going on with me." The team heads out to meet Coulson and May and find Hyde. "Look at you," says Natasha after landing a heavy punch to Emilie's chest. Still healing from the pipe, her chest tightens in pain. "Fighting over a boy? I can understand why. He's a damn good kisser." Emilie fights back enraged. Natasha throws a punch and hits the wall behind Emilie, who turns and kicks her in the back of the knee, knocking her down. Natasha rolls to the side, avoiding a fiery punch from her. "You picked the wrong lover boy," says Emilie, knocking over one of the chemical barrels. "I just needed him for his powers. It was really nothing personal. Although I really enjoyed my time with him the other night." Emilie eagerly attacks her again. Natasha throws a punch, and Emilie grabs her arm and flips her onto her back. "I hope you know, it's nothing personal," says Emilie as her body becomes electrified and she rises off the ground. Natasha looks on amused. Emilie smiles and Natasha's smirk fades when she realizes she is laying in a pool of the liquid chemicals. Emilie shoots a stream of electricity into the puddle as Natasha tries to jump to a dry area, but isn't fast enough. Her body jerks and shakes as the voltage pulses through her just before collapsing. Emilie places her feet back on the floor and leaves to find the rest of the team. The Ghost Rider walks down a long corridor where he comes across Grumpy. The two stand and stare each other down for a moment. Grumpy pulls out a small bottle and sprays a mist into his nose. The drug more potent this time. He falls to the ground. This time, his frame becomes rigid. He is bigger than the previous times he's transformed. His rib cage cracks and shifts under his skin, and his spinal column pops, one vertebrae at a time, as it shifts up, becoming dinosaur-like. He lets out a roar and charges the rider like a bull. He tackles him through a wall at the end of the corridor. The rider struggles to get out of his grasp. Grumpy grabs his flaming skull with his enormous hand and throws him through an office window. He walks over to continue the beating and finds him gone. The rider comes up behind him and hits him with a fire extinguisher. Grumpy falls to a knee. The rider jumps on his back and tries to choke him from behind, but Grumpy's neck is too big. He thrashes around and the rider struggles to maintain his grip. "You've put me in a bit of a pinch, Agent Coulson. This serum has become my life's work, and I'm on the verge of a breakthrough," says Hyde. "Your formula is unstable and unpredictable," says Coulson. Quake, Yo-Yo, and Mac find Coulson and May with Hyde. "You're surrounded," says Coulson. "There's no way out." "You think I would let myself be caught so easily?" says Hyde, with an easy smile as he pushes a button on his watch. Several slender tanks unlock and several figures emerge. One grabs a hold of May. She quickly throws it on the floor and submits its arm. Another goes after Coulson. 2 more show up behind Quake, Mac, and Yo-Yo. Hyde slides out of a hidden door in the wall. "What the hell are these things?" questions Mac, looking at the misshapen humanoid clones. "First-generation clones would be my guess," suggests Coulson. The rider starts to become fatigued. Grumpy's frothy smile lets him know he too is running out of energy. The rider stands to his feet. Grumpy once again charges. This time, the rider standing by the elevator pushes the call button and vaults over his shoulders. The doors open just as Grumpy dives in, headfirst into the wall, and knocks himself out. The door closes and the rider rips out the fire alarm. The elevator remains on the floor, and as the doors close, the rider uses his Hellfire to weld the door shut, trapping Grumpy inside. The clones were easily dealt with by the team. Coulson runs over to the area where Hyde escaped, looking for his hidden exit. An alarm goes off inside the building. "That doesn't sound good," says Mac. "Countdown in progress," says an automated voice. "Countdown to what?" questions Quake. "I'd rather not wait here to find out," says Coulson. "Everyone move out." "Emilie," radios Quake. "Yeah." "Get out, now. It looks like Hyde activated the building self-destruct button," says Quake. Emilie runs back to where she left Natasha and finds her gone. She walks over to the window, takes a deep breath, and teleports outside just before the team exits the building. She falls to her knees from chest pain and nausea. The team runs over to her and turns just as the bombs go off in the building. Coulson helps Emilie up. "You all right?" he asks, noticing the still open wound in her chest. "I'm fine." She looks around. "Where's Robbie?" She turns to look at the burning building and see Robbie dragging Grumpy out of one of the doors. Once he is a few feet away from the facility, he lets go of Grumpy's body and looks over, exhausted. As he heads towards the team, Emilie walks towards him. A fireball forms in her hand and she throws it at him. He says, holding up his hand to block it, exhausted from everything that had happened. She throws another. It's me, he yells. "I know," she says angrily, throwing another. Before she can throw a third, he is face to face with her. He pins her arm under his, pulls her in hard, and gives her a passionate kiss. "I deserve that," he says, accepting her temper tantrum. She stares at him speechlessly, upset with all they had been through, but thankful he was okay. "Just out of curiosity, are you guys going to kiss after every successful mission?" questions Coulson. May nudges him. "What? It's just a little awkward." They hear banging coming from a nearby SUV. They walk over and Mac pops the trunk hatch. "DeMarcus?" says Mac. Coulson removes the tape covering his mouth. "Yo, Mac, who the hell these..." He pauses and sees Robbie with his hands wrapped around Emilie. "I know what this is. You set me up, huh?" "No one set you up. You were in way over your head," says Coulson. DeMarcus starts running his mouth again, and Coulson closes the hatch. "Let's get a team down here to clean up," says Coulson to May. "Natasha got away," tells Emilie. "So did Hyde," informs Coulson. "Until next time." A small team drops in from the jet and starts taking care of the situation at the facility. DeMarcus and Grumpy are both arrested and loaded into a containment cube. By the time they get back to HQ, the team is exhausted. "I think everyone deserves a good night's sleep before debriefing. We can take care of that in the morning." "Thank God, because all I hear is my bed screaming my name," says Quake. Yo-Yo and Mac walk down to the lab to make sure everything is okay with him and keep him under observation until he's back to normal. Emilie goes to take a shower. The warm water feels relaxing on her sore wings. She looks down at her chest and finds the hole closed, but some of the skin still raw and sore to the touch. She throws on some clothes when she's finished and heads to her room. Robbie is laying in her bed on his stomach when she gets there. "Don't you look comfy?" she says. "Took you long enough," he says as he rolls over onto his side. Yeah, well, I don't know if you remember, but you put a pipe through my chest. That wasn't me. That was him. I was out of control, and the only way for her to think she could control him was to make her think he killed you, he says, getting off the bed. I get it. This time it really was you trying to kill me, she says with a smirk. Maybe next time you can just have him cuff me to a desk or something, she says, smiling as he wraps his arms around her. Now we both know you just teleport out. But if you want to get kinky, though, he pulls her body close and she can already feel he's aroused. I know Coulson ordered everyone to get some sleep, but I don't see much of that happening tonight. And why is that? Questions Emilie as she plants a kiss on his lips. Because I have some making up to do. He lifts her up as she wraps her legs around him. He starts to kiss her as he lays her on the bed. Wait, she hesitates. I did... She stops. What? He asks. Did you do anything with Natasha? He sits up and looks at her, his heart broken by the question. The night you got back late and you didn't answer your phone. No, he says assuredly. If you did, I understand. You weren't in your right mind. I just need you to be honest with me. She starts to ramble. He says, taking her chin into his hands and looking her in the eyes. She kissed me, but never did it go any further than that. I swear to you. His eyes saddened as she started to kiss him again. He removes her tank top as he continues kissing her. She takes off her pants and removes his shirt. He puts his forehead against hers and kisses her gently. I want to make love to you, he whispers in her ear, his warm breath causing goosebumps across her whole body. He kisses her slowly down to her navel. She can feel his hands caress the insides of her thighs as he slides his fingers inside her. What are you waiting for? She asks impatiently. Just taking my time, enjoying the moment. He takes off his pants and slides inside her. She arches her back against him as he holds her close. It broke his heart to think that she questioned her trust in him, that she could ever think another woman could take her place so easily, and it made him even madder to know that even though he was under some kind of love spell, Natasha made him so vulnerable to her advances. The evening Emilie saw them leave the shop, Natasha had tried to make a move on him. He chauffeured her around a bit before she had him pull over and made her advances. She also asked him some questions that made him wonder what she was up to. Questions about S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. Had the ghostwriter not been with him, he wasn't sure he would have been able to resist her. He glides slowly in and out of Emilie, making her body crave him more with each stroke. You good? He asks with a seductive tone. More than good, she teases back, as she lifts her hips up, allowing him deeper access. He throws his head back and grips her thighs. The night seemed like forever. Robbie sat up with her in his lap and pressed hard into her. She gripped his back, and it motivated him even more. You first, he says, thrusting inside of her. She tried not to be too loud, but he was so attentive to her body. Shh, he says, hitting her spot. She comes hard, and so does he. Both sweating, Emilie's body slowly becomes relaxed. Her grip on him eased, and she looked at the scratches she caused on his back. She giggled. At least those will be gone in the morning, she says, rubbing her hands across them, as if to ease the pain she may have caused him. They lay on the bed facing each other, eyelids heavy as the events of the day started to catch up. He stares at her while rubbing her leg. What? She asks, throwing her leg over him. Just thinking. About? Nothing, he says, avoiding the question with a subtle smile. She props herself up on her elbow and stares back, waiting for a better answer. I was just thinking about round 2, he says, climbing back on top of her. Oh, no, you don't, she laughs as she closes her legs and pushes him off to the side. He laughs and cuddles up behind her with his arms around her waist as they fall asleep.